Hi, this is Ofori, the digital reader, and today we're going to be doing the battery life challenge for the Boox page. Now, every time I do a battery life challenge, I want to make sure I read every day for at least an hour. Sadly, with the Boox page, I was reading Wicked, and I just really wasn't into that book, and so it just took me forever to get through it. But still, I tried to read at least regularly enough that, I could track all this information. I track the days it takes to finish the book. I track the actual hours that I read. I track the battery percentage that I start reading and the battery percentage that I finish the book or run out of power. And I track the battery life from 100% down to 10%. I just feel like 10% is more realistic. I would never use the device to 0%. If I was at 10%, I'd be looking for some place to charge. So I always like to show what my settings were when I started reading, is so you can see what my lighting was. And generally, I usually like to keep my lighting around 30 to 50%. On the Boox page, it was around 40%. Also, what I'm going to be including is what app I actually read the book in, because I basically read a book in each of the different apps, and that way you probably won't make a big difference battery wise, but at least it's interesting for you to know. So let's get started. So the first book I read was Viking's Dawn by Henry Treese. That took me from 100% to 90%. That was 141 pages, and I read for 2.6 hours over 4 days. The next book I read was Wicked by Gregory Maguire. That took me from 89% to 55% power, and that was 422 pages, and that took me 11 and a half hours over 21 days to finish. The next book I read was Just Shoot Me Dead by Ann R. Tan. That took me from 55% to 47%. That was 161 pages, and that took me 3.5 hours over 3 days. The next book I read was Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. That took me from 46% to 21%. That was 350 pages, and that took me 6.25 hours over 5 days. And the last book I read was Yellow Face by R.F. Kuang. That took me from 20% to 9%. I read 184 pages of that book, and that took me 3.2 hours over 3 days. So the total battery life was over 35 days the battery lasted, and I was able to read for 27 hours. Comparing my other devices, my Pocketbook InkPad 3 Color was 34.45 hours. My Pocketbook Verse Pro Color was 31.5 hours. And the Boox page comes in with a battery life of 27.05 hours. So I consider anything above 30 hours elite, but this was still much better than I had originally thought. I was kind of biased against e-ink readers, Android e-ink readers, because I thought they had bad battery lives, and at least in this case I was completely wrong. So this is Ofori, the digital reader, and keep reading.